Hello, everybody. I'm really glad to be here for this year and represent my country. And I really appreciate this opportunity to speak about some issues, some problems that, as a foreign student and as a representative of a country, I'm supposed to. We are young people who create our future today, and we create our future of our country separately, and it becomes the future of whole and the future of history of whole planet. And but in modern life, when we have many opportunities of pastime and entertainment, we often forget about our past, our history. Some of us even don't know the names of their grandparents. Why? Isn't our present built on our past, or isn't it the result of what our ancestors have done? Naturally it is. The wheel of history is rolling all the time and phenomena repeat. And as we know, history's pages are full of dramatic days. Fratricides, battles for power, wars, genocides. Don't we have to learn from our mistakes and from mistakes of our ancestors to preserve ourselves and future generations of tragedies? Tragedy. When speaking about genocides, people often use this word, tragedy. But is it? Tragedy can be, for example, the death caused by a disaster or a death caused by age. But if the death is caused by another human being, it becomes evil. The 20th century of world history is full of evils, and the first one is the Armenian Genocide, which took place in 1915. It continued up to 1917, and 1.5 million people were killed during this period of time, and it took place in front of the indifferent side of civil world. 1.5 million people were killed in the way of being uprooted of their homes and being forced to march for hundreds of miles, being deprived of food and water to their Zor, which is now in Syria. It's a desert. And still one can find human bones there. The date of onset of the genocide is conventionally held to be April 24th. On this day in 1915, Turkish authorities arrested some 250 Armenian intellectuals and community leaders to Constantinople, and this was taking place in front of the Christian world, in front of the site of Christian world, and it was taking place in a country that has been the first in the world to adopt Christianity as a national religion in 301. It is a well-known fact that seeing another's problem, we never expect us to have some, as if we are preserved by an invisible hand. But everybody knows about the Holocaust, during which 6 million Jews were cruelly killed. Who was the main author of this? Adolf Hitler. But few people know that during the Armenian Genocide, Hitler stated, "Who now remembers the Armenians?" Historians have suggested that the meaning of Hitler's statement was that if the Turks got away with committing genocide against the Armenians, the Nazi Germany could get away with committing genocide against the Jews. Who is the guilty? Indifference and overconfidence. After recovering of the earthquake in Gyumri in 1988 and the War of Karabakh, Armenian government has been doing everything for the other republics and countries to recognize genocide, because if the crime is not being punished, it's going to be repeated for sure, as it was in the case of Holocaust. And the most interesting point is that in this process of recognition, the greatest role plays one of the results of genocide, the Armenian diaspora and people like Achille Gorgi, William Saroyan, Charles Navour, etc. While discussing this issue, the governments of the countries put their national interests on one hand of the scale and conscience and justice on the other. In other words, the interest of country on the other scale, on the other hand, like they were doing it when it was taking place. What will be the result of this? Several countries have already preferred the human interests. Among them are Argentina, Belgium, Canada, Chile, Cyprus, France, Greece, Italy, Lithuania, Lebanon, Netherlands, Poland, Russia, Slovakia, Switzerland, Uruguay, Vatican City, Venezuela. On 4th September 2006, members of the European Parliament voted for the inclusion of a clause prompting Turkey to recognize the Armenian Genocide as a condition for its European Union accession in a highly critical report, which was adopted by a broad majority in the Foreign Relations Committee of the European Parliament. Other organizations recognizing it are World Council of Churches, Human Rights Association, Permanent People's Tribunal, etc., and the press recognizing this fact are the New York Times, Associated Press, the Times, Los Angeles Times, Vestia, and so on. But for the final results, we need the USA to recognize it. It's interesting that 42 US states have already recognized the Armenian Genocide, but it hasn't been recognized by the government yet. On January 19, 2008, US Senator Barack Obama released a statement. 2 years ago, I criticized the Secretary of State for the firing of U.S. Ambassador to Armenia John Evans after he properly used the term genocide to describe Turkey's slaughter of thousands of Armenians starting in 1915. I shared with Secretary Rice my firmly held conviction that the Armenian Genocide is not an allegation, a personal opinion, or a point of view, but rather a widely documented fact supported by an overwhelming body of historical evidence. The facts are undeniable. An official policy that calls on diplomats to distort the historical facts is an untenable policy. As a senator, I strongly support passage of the Armenian Genocide resolution, and as president, I will recognize the Armenian Genocide. On April 24, 2009, the President of the U.S., Barack Obama, stated, I have consistently stated my own view of what occurred in 1915, and my view of that history has not changed. My interest remains the achievement of a full, frank, and just acknowledgement of the facts. And during the whole speech, he didn't utter the word genocide. What's this? An evasion? But are 1.5 million people a matter of evasion? If they are, a further genocide is unavoidable. If not, we can avoid it. I frankly hope that one day people will become less indifferent and more interested in what's going on with the people around them, living on the same planet in the same period of time, and we'll think of how can it influence on their own lives and on lives of their children. And we are shaping our future now at this moment, and we must be able to adopt our yesterday's faults in order to be right today. If we are right today, we can look at the eyes of true justice right, and it will mean that we are on the right way of creating our clean future in which our generations won't have to pay our debts, and they won't have to answer the questions we didn't do today.